Hello, everyone, and I am going to start this Dhamma talk with a confession. I just did my usual Thursday evening Dhamma session over Zoom with everyone, but I forgot to record it. And I know there are some of our friends who are waiting to listen to this talk later as they couldn't make it tonight. So I feel terrible for forgetting. So I still have quite a lot of energy and joy after giving the Dhamma talk. It was quite enjoyable to be with everybody. So I decided I'll try my best to record a similar kind of talk to what I have just done. It'll of course not be the same, but I'll try and mention as many Dhamma factors and qualities, things that I explained during that talk. So that talk started with a question from one of the participants who said that they have read a sutta where they have heard how Venerable Mahamoggallana and Venerable Sariputta got enlightened. And according to the suttas, Venerable Mahamoggallana had a very easy and a happy short path, and Venerable Mahamoggallana had easy but a long path. But there are, in that sutta, the Buddha talks about 4 different types of people and 4 different methods of people who practice. So for some people, the path is really, really difficult, and it takes a really long time for them to make progress. And for other people, the path is really, really beautiful and enjoyable, and it's very peaceful, but they still take a very long time to make progress. And the third kind of person, for them the path is really difficult and painful, but they still make quick progress. And the last one, the path is very enjoyable, beautiful, peaceful, and then they make quick progress. So of course we all want to be the last one, right? Quick and easy path. So they wanted me to elaborate on this one. So I started explaining this by saying a simile where you have a mother with a child. There are 4 different types of moms, and one of the mothers, they have a child that sleeps a lot during the day. And the mother is also very, very wise and a very smart lady. And there is another mother who has a baby who's up all the time, who sleeps very little and constantly awake and troubles the mom a lot. But the mother is a very wise one. And the third case, there is a mother who has a baby who sleeps a long time during the day. But the mother isn't that wise, not that skilled in doing her housework. And the last one, there is a mother who has a baby who is awake all the time and gives her a lot of trouble. And the mother is also not that wise. So when it comes to the first mother who has a baby who sleeps a lot, that is somebody who has samadhi. Yeah, their defilements are less and they get into deep meditation easily. So when the baby sleeps well, and when the mother is very skillful, the mother can, easily get the housework done quite quickly. Yeah, that's like, ending everything quite easily, but also very peacefully, because the baby is sleeping, no trouble. You can really enjoy your work. So it's an easy way of doing your work. But for the second mother, the baby is awake. Yeah, it's troubling. You have to constantly attend on the baby and deal with it. And still, if you are smart, if you're skillful, and you can find efficient ways to get your work done. So this kind of mom, even though it is difficult, life is difficult because the baby is awake, but you are smart, so you still get your work done quickly. And the third mother, where the baby is sleeping, so it's very peaceful for her. So she has long periods of nice quiet time in the day. Yet she is not so wise, so she doesn't know how to get her work done efficiently. So she takes a very long time to get the work done. And the last mom, the baby's awake and she's not so smart either. So it's really difficult. So it's very, very difficult throughout the day to deal with the baby. It's painful. And also she is making mistakes. She's not efficient. So she takes a long time to get things done. So this is kind of way of understanding the four types of people. And so again, the mom who has a baby who sleeps well and the mom is smart is like somebody who has very well developed spiritual faculties. And spiritual faculties are saddha, that is faith, virya, that is energy, sati, that is mindfulness, samadhi, that is stillness, and wisdom, panya. And also they have very little defilement, so their mind's quite easy to get into deep meditation. So they make quick progress on the path. There are such people like that. And then the second mother, where the baby is awake, that means your defilements are quite awake. So you have there are people who have quite a lot of defilements in them. Yet you see they also can from time to time get into deep meditation and they make progress. So these are the mother, like their spiritual faculties are well developed. So they are wise. They know how to use different methods. So they're wise, but their defilements are still strong. So the path is difficult, but they make quick progress. The fourth mother, these are the people who get into deep meditation quite easily because their defilements are quite down. Yet they don't still have their spiritual faculties well developed. So their level of wisdom is still not so mature. So they, even though they get deep meditation, they take quite a long time to make progress. And the fourth kind of mother whose baby is awake and who's unskillful in getting things done is like where your defilements are also strong and your spiritual faculties are not very well developed. But still, you can make progress. So slowly, even though it is difficult, with perseverance and endurance, you can, with real commitment, you can still make progress. So this was the brief way of explaining the four different kinds of people. And then, of course, this is about the meditation practice, how the mind becomes still. And in this, and it is important to then talk about the 5 hindrances and the 5 spiritual faculties. These are like 2 different teams. They are in our mind, and this is how whether we make progress or not, or whether we become still or not, happens. So when it comes to meditation, trying to explain the 5 hindrances here first. And the reason why it is hard for us to meditate, right? We all try to do breath meditation, and watching breath shouldn't be so hard, right? It's a very simple thing to do, just breath going in, breath going out. What's the big deal? But we all know, we have been there, done that. Some days it's so difficult to keep your mind on the breath. It's very restless, the mind going all over the place. So why is it? So it's like the mind is like a body of water. It's a very beautiful idea. Even the Ajahn Brahm usually use this with the cup of water to explain how the mind becomes still. That's why he tries to call deep meditation as states of stillness instead of concentration. So it makes sense. It's like a body of water, and when the body of water becomes very still, that is when you can see a very beautiful reflection on it, or you can see all the things that are beneath the water, all the things that are underneath, all the pebbles, the fishes, and all of that. So if that is seeing things for what they are. Like truly seeing yata bhuta jnana dassana, it is called. That is what gets you enlightened. The real wisdoms come up when you understand the world for what it is, the human condition for what it is, the suffering for what it is. That is when enlightenment happens. So that seeing things for what it is like, if you take a simile, this is a simile by the Buddha, as like seeing what is beneath the water in a still forest pool, and then what hinders that seeing, and those are the hindrances. So the Buddha used this simile to explain how the hindrances stop you from seeing things for what they are. In the first instance, the first hindrance is sensuality, kama chanda. And sensuality, the Buddha simile is like colored dye. So when you have colored dye in a water pond, then is it easy to see what's in the bottom? The color is hindering, right? So the water is no longer clear. So that is like sensual desire. So we can see how when our interest in to go out into the world to see things, our interest in to go out into the world to hear things, to taste things, to feel beautiful feelings and sensations, how all of these things are very disturbing to our minds. It is in fact this first hindrance is our major obstacle or the hindrance to getting into deep meditation. So we know that, so we can really relate to how sensuality is a problem for big mind becoming still and seeing things clearly for what they are. And the second thing is like a pool of water in a volcanic area where the water is constantly bubbling and steaming. It's hot. That is like ill will and negativity. We can easily relate to that. That's how we feel. We are very hot when we get angry and irritated, right? So when the water is bubbling and hot and steaming, again we can't see things for what they are because the water is not still and not clear. So that's the second hindrance of avyapada. So ill will, vyapada, and negativity. So the third one is when the sloth and torpor, tina midda, and that is when the pool of water has algae growing on it. So if you have a layer of algae on it, again you can't see what's in the bottom. So the mind is really lethargic, sleepy, tired, quite low energy. When the mind is like that, again you can't really see what's going on, let alone seeing the big realities of life. So that's the third hindrance. And the fourth hindrance is restlessness and remorse. That is like windy water. When there is a lot of wind and it's making lots of ripples and waves, again there's no way you can see the bottom and what's in there. So that's restless and remorse. I think we can all relate to this. We know our mind really well when it is having restlessness and what it's like. There's no way that we can really see reality. Our mind is not rational anymore. When it's overcome by these defilements, we do very irrational things which we later regret, but at the time we can't see. So that's the fourth one, that is restlessness and remorse. And the fifth one is doubt. And that is like when the forest pool is covered or has muddy water. Muddy water is really dangerous. You just don't know. You can put your feet and you can get sucked in. You can't clearly see anything at all. So that is doubt. That's a fifth hindrance. So these are the hindrances. So constantly our mind has these things. Sometimes all five at the same time, or a couple of them, or even one of them in our mind. And that sort of distorts our view. That is why we can't see things for what they are. So we have a distorted perception of the world. That's how we see the world, through distorted lenses. So it's not very clear vision. So that is why we usually take things in the wrong way. We can't see things that are impermanent. We take the things that are impermanent as being permanent. We take what is suffering as happiness. We take what is not beautiful as beautiful, and we take things that doesn't belong to us as belonging to us, as myself. So these are the kind of distortions. This is the not being able to see things for what they are, and the cause for that is when the mind has these hindrances. The mind can't become still, and that stillness, that samadhi, that deep meditation is necessary for that insights to come up. For the clear seeing is what gives rise to nibbida, to disenchantment, and for the craving to die out, to understand the suffering. So this is just the workings of the hindrances and how they work counter to meditation. And this is like a child that doesn't sleep, awake and constantly troubling the mother, so she can't get her work done. So it is with difficulty. For people whose hindrances are very strong, the path is a bit difficult. And the spiritual qualities, so they are also 5. First one is Shraddha, that is called faith or confidence. Virya, that is energy. Sati is mindfulness. Samadhi is stillness. And Panya, wisdom. So these 5 are also very, very helpful. So if you have these spiritual qualities, you can make progress quite quickly. So these are the people who can make quick progress. Even if the defilements are there, they know how to deal with it because they are wise. They have strong spiritual faculties within. And of those, the first one is really, really important to understand what the first one is. That is confidence. And this is really important for us to know how to use confidence to even do our meditation practice. Now, like I said before, watching the breath shouldn't be so difficult. But why it is difficult for us is because over a period of time when we have had bad experiences with our meditation, or we have not been able to become peaceful, we have developed quite a negative relationship with our meditation object, whether it is breath or any other object. If it hasn't worked for you, if you have had bad experiences, then you have a bad relationship built up. So when it comes to the time to meditate, you sort of think, oh, do I have to do this? I don't really like, but I suppose I have to do it. But you don't go there with oomph or with delight. It's a drag. You don't enjoy it because you can't enter into your meditation object precisely because you have built up a bad relationship. So if you want to be a skillful meditator, then it is really important to do things right from the beginning, right? And that is building up a beautiful relationship with your meditation object. Treat your meditation object like your best friend. Now, if it is your best friend, do you have to really put in time, do an effort to try to be with them? Yeah, you love being with your best friend and you enjoy being with them. You just really enter into their presence very easily. Yeah, you embrace them. It's easy to stay with them because you enjoy it. You have a good relationship. That is why they're your best friend. So the Buddha says there's 4 things about meditation practice. I'll say in Pali first. Pakandati, pasidati, santitati, vimucchati. So pakandati is that ability to enter into the meditation object. Being able to enter easily into the meditation object is really important. And that is where you need to build up a good relationship. And when you have built up that relationship, when you are able to enter easily, then you are able to stay with your meditation object for a long period of time. When you stay like that, you get the confidence, yes, this is working, I can do it, this is really true. So you get confidence because meditation is working for you. You've done the things the right way around. So pasidati is that confidence. So that confidence, building up that confidence in the right way by having inspiration, having a good relationship with your meditation object, and then and reflecting back, seeing that this works. That's why every meditation at the end we ask you to sort of reflect back and see how you feel, what worked, what didn't, and all of that is about seeing and building up that confidence. Whenever the meditation worked, why and how. So that confidence is so important, not only to do the meditation really well, but also for your entire spiritual path. So when you apply yourself and when you get some results, that is when your confidence in the Dhamma, in the teachings, becomes strong. So in the beginning, so this is quite different to the faith that is usually given in other religions. Sometimes it is kind of very blind faith. You believe things maybe even out of fear, maybe because everybody else is believing. So it's kind of like not with any results, but you just believe things. Yeah. But when it comes to Buddhist teachings, the faith or the confidence really comes from your own experience. Sure, you have to have some confidence in the beginning. Just like even for us to go to school to learn something, you have to have an initial confidence on the teacher, right? When we first started going to school, our parents told us, the teacher knows, just listen to them. Yeah, have confidence. So you trust your parents, or you trust your teacher. So when you go to school, you lend your ear and you listen to them. So they say 1 apple and 2 apple, and that becomes, so 1 plus 1 becomes 2. So you yeah, that's true. So 1 plus 1 means 2. That's a very simple thing. But whatever it is, at school, you first listen out of confidence and some basic trust. But once you learn it, once you apply yourself into it, when you get the result, you get confidence in a good way, because it's based on your results. So this is that confidence, and you need that confidence to get started. And what happens when you have confidence? What happens when you have inspiration? When you have confidence, when you have inspiration, energy comes up in your mind, and that energy is the joy. Yeah, these are the joys. That's also why during meditation practice, I sometimes encourage you to notice the delight coming up. Delight is the first shoots of that joy. Yeah, so that as you're stilling, as you're becoming peaceful, the mind is gathering energy. That is that virya, that is that energy. When you have inspiration, energy comes up in your mind. In a very mundane way to explain this, I can also sort of say, there may have been a day when you have been really, really, really tired after coming back from work, and you're sitting on your chair, not being able to get up, not being able to even lift your little finger, right? Sometimes there are days like this. But as you were sitting, maybe you got a phone call, and it could be, and this is something that has happened to me many times in my life. I had a friend who loves birds, and he always wants to say, whenever he sees he or she sees a injured bird, and she doesn't drive, so she would always call me and say, "Oh, can you please come and help me to take the bird to the bird hospital?" Right? So there have been days that I was sitting there so tired from coming back from work, but when I get this phone call, I jump up because I'm inspired to go and help and do these things. So sometimes, I've driven to the other side of the city to help this my friend and the poor bird, injured bird. So I'm sure you can relate to this many times. Yeah, in life, you may have had a very physically tiring day. But when you get inspiration in your mind to do something, when you enjoy it, when you see the benefits of it, another kind of energy comes up, springs up. You don't know from where, right? A mental energy comes up, and you're able to achieve so much that you never thought. You wonder, where did that energy comes from? So it's like that. So when you are meditating also, when you're practicing your path, when you have confidence, when you have inspiration, really when you have seen the benefits of it, virya, the energy comes up. So this is that second spiritual faculty that is helpful. So when you are practicing, when you are having joy, when you're becoming still, mindfulness is the next thing. Yeah, mindfulness is there all the way, of course, from the very start. Mindfulness is there, but when the mind have energy, when the mind becomes still, that is when the mindfulness goes into the next level, which Ajahn Brahm usually calls as superpower mindfulness. Yeah, it's a really huge, enormous, incredible mindfulness. And you need sometimes this kind of very sharp, clear, strong, powerful mindfulness for the mind to really enter into deep meditation. So the fourth factor is samadhi, stillness. Yeah, so that's the fourth spiritual faculty. And that samadhi, that stillness, as I explained earlier, with the hindrances, and when they are not there, the body of water becoming still, it's like this. When the mind becomes deeply still, that is when we can see things for what they are. Yata bhuta jnana dasana, seeing things for what they are, the reality. And that is when the insights and the powerful insights come in, and that is what gets you enlightened. So those are the 5 spiritual faculties and the 5 hindrances. So you can see how these work, and how when the spiritual faculties are down, the hindrances are up. When the hindrances are down, the spiritual faculties are up. So this is like the baby awake or not, and the mother wise or not, and how there are 4 different types of meditators in the world. So that's the little main talk, and then there was a question about skillful techniques to deal with a restless mind. Yeah, when the mind is really, really restless, how to deal skillfully. So there are many different ways you can do this, and you need to find out for yourself at the time what you are capable of doing. So one of the things is check with your mind. Even though if it is restless, there are times the mind has some energy still. How do you know this? There is a certain joy within. You know that there is some good energy inside of you. There is joy inside. Mind can be still a little restless, but you feel that there is that. If that is the case, all you got to do is just sit down, relax, and just allow things to come down. And you can use your right view of understanding the restlessness also is impermanent. It is not going to stay. It is I who keep it up by fooling it. But if I just stop the fool, that is, stop my interest into this and just allow things to just settle down, the restlessness will die down. Yeah, this is possible to do. But this is when you have a degree of energy. And I think I have done this kind of meditation at times, like we just sit down, just wait and face, whatever is happening and be with it. And then you can see the restlessness slowly dying down. But there are other times you might try to do this and you can see the restlessness get bad from bad to worse. Yeah, it really gathers momentum. If that is happening, then don't do that. In that occasion, you can use the method of replacing. Yeah, this is again a Buddha's teaching. Like you can replace one defilement and you can use something wholesome to replace that state. And in this occasion, you can use something inspiring. So instead of having a restless mind, you can listen to an inspiring Dhamma talk, or you can read something nice and inspiring, or you can do some chanting, or you can go for a beautiful walk somewhere. So it has to be something that the mind is inspired. Yeah, it is when the mind doesn't have any inspiration that it just likes to just stay with restlessness, just think this and think that and worry about this and worry about that. But when the mind has inspiration, when the mind has a bit of joy, the restlessness has no place. You're able to really stay with something. So find out something that is helpful, like an object that your mind will leap towards that is useful. So you can use something that is a little bit more gross, and then you can make it subtle and until you become still. So this you have to become skilled and find out, try out what works for you different times. So sometimes it's just a matter of drinking a cup of tea, sitting down, and by the time you really stay with the drinking of the tea, your mind might settle down. What I used to do sometimes as a layperson, when I used to go for work, my work was quite involved in thinking and writing reports, research, and all that kind of stuff. So it's very heavily mind involved things. But when I come home, I want to leave all of that aside. Yeah, so that what I do is I do cook something, a very complicated recipe. Yeah, when I focus, because I love cooking, I used to like cooking, and I use a very complicated recipe. And especially if you also have a friend to come and appreciate your cooking and stuff, then it brings up joy. Yeah, so and by the time I've done that complicated cooking and enjoyed giving it, sharing it with my friend, by all that time the restlessness has really died down. Yeah, and the mind becomes peaceful. So you can use various different techniques like this to replace. So that's another way of doing that. Or you can also always use the grounding into your body. That's another thing that comes up in the suttas. And that is like, our restless mind is like going in 5 directions, like going out through the eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body. It's like 5 different animals. Yeah, but the 5 different animals are tied together, right? Tied to each other. So the most stronger animal will pull everybody else in their direction. But after a while it gets tired, then the next animal who is stronger will pull in that direction. That is when we go with our size, and then it's done its job, and then you go with your sound. So like that, the mind is constantly restless and going out into the world based on these 5 senses. But instead of the 5 animals being tied to each other, when they're tied down into a strongly grounded post, then even though the animals will try to go in their each direction, after a while they all become uh, tired or whatever, and then they just sleep just next to the post. So this is like, if you can ground yourself, put your attention into the body, then it is a really powerful way of stilling the mind, yeah, grounding the mind into the present. So that's why sometimes I use the palms. The palms are quite sensitive, so you can use touch sensations on your palms or on the soles of your feet. So you can use that or any other physical sensations, and you can stay with the body. This is called kaya gata sati, mindfulness directed towards the body. And that's a very powerful way of grounding yourself, and a good way to deal with restlessness as well. So these are a few different ways that you can use, and you have to try it out at different times. Different method would be helpful. And another one that comes to mind is metta, yeah, loving kindness. Metta meditation is a very powerful way to take care of all the 5 hindrances. Yeah, it's really, really powerful. And how is that? And you can see the reason why we become restless and why we go out into the sensual world to look for things is when we feel a bit empty inside. Yeah, when there is a bit of suffering, some kind of emptiness, some kind of need. Yeah, that is when we just go out looking for something to eat, something to watch, something to listen, somebody to talk to. But when our heart is filled with these beautiful feelings of loving kindness, this is the really beautiful feelings that you have, like for your friend or for somebody who you see good qualities in, that beautiful feeling of wanting to see them well, the wanting to see them happy. Yeah, these are the feelings of metta. So when you have such beautiful feelings in your heart is very full, very fulfilled, yeah, then you don't have that restlessness. You don't need to go running, chasing behind sensuality. So that sensuality, the first hindrance, has no place when the heart has metta. And then, of course, loving kindness is the direct antidote to ill will and negativity, because a loving heart can't have anger at the same time, right? They're opposite emotions. And the third one, when you have that kind of very beautiful, strong feelings of love, affection, kindness, metta, the mind cannot be sleepy and slothful, right? Because the mind is high energy when you have these really powerful emotions. And same goes for restlessness, because as I said before, when the mind is energetic in this way, it is not restless. And doubt is not directly applicable, but of course, when you see how all this is working in a good way, you can see the path is working. You have confidence in the Buddha's teachings. So metta meditation is also quite powerful, and you can start it from where you are at, like even in a very simple way. Even if you are restless, even if your mind is not doing so well, you can still start by even reciting, may you be well, may you be happy. But after a while, as the mind gathers the momentum, as it gets still, and that becomes so subtle, and you can get into very beautiful building up the feelings, and then you can stay with the feelings of metta. So metta meditation is a very powerful thing. So if you want one medicine to deal with all the 5 hindrances, then metta meditation is recommended. Right? So that's that. And there was also a question then asking about the differences between the 4 Brahmaviharas, or the 4 divine meditations, of which metta meditation is number 1, the first one. So again, this is just a very brief kind of introduction to this. This can deserve an entire Dhamma sermon, but in here, just a very simple way of explaining, because for some people, sometimes some of these meditative states seem like very similar. Yeah, the emotions or the feelings of these 4 meditations, which is the metta, that is loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita is sympathetic joy, and upekkha, which is equanimity. So it is important to know that the feeling is different when you develop this. So metta is like that beautiful feeling, the friendly feeling, the loving and friendly feeling you have towards your best friend, or towards somebody who you respect, who you see good qualities in. That unconditional kind of feeling, unconditionally wishing them to be happy, wishing them to be well. So that's that feeling of metta. And how is this different to karuna? Karuna is when you see somebody suffering, when you see the suffering in others, you are wishing them, may you be free from suffering. So this is not being sad together with their suffering, not that sad feeling, but rather that wish for them to be free from suffering, that wishing of being free from suffering, that is compassion. So they are 2 different. And mudita, and that is rejoicing in the success in others, the goodness of others. So I often see this like, good on you, mate. Yeah. I'm so glad that things are going well for you. Yeah. So this is where, when you are really able to be happy, when you see somebody else is doing well in their meditation practice or in their life. So this is the opposite of jealousy. Instead of being jealous, you are very happy, and you say, sadhu, sadhu, awesome that it's happy. I'm so happy that it's going well for you. So that's that kind of feeling. And upekkha is a much more subtle feeling, that is that very stable mind. Yeah. And of course, the highest form of upekkha comes in the 4th jhana. So that's a very high state, but still we can get an understanding even at a level here, and that is that stable mind. Normally our mind just swings from one to the other like a pendulum, right, between the negative and positive emotions. But both of them, even the positive emotions, can be quite exhausting, yeah, after a while. So, but when the mind is still and stable, that's quite nice, that's delightful, that's very blissful, and that's that equanimity. But how do you get there? And that is when you actually see, that all these experiences, whether it's an experience of sight, sound, taste, smell, touch, all of these things are only this much. Yeah. How long does it last? How long does it last? Not very long. So when you see that, when you see it's only this much, then your mind sort of becomes peaceful, becomes contented, and goes into equanimity. Contentment and equanimity are very closely related, and in fact they are kind of like a state of a arahant's mind. So it's kind of a beautiful place to incline our mind towards equanimity. And that's one way of getting there. And another very practical way that I like to think about equanimity is like a river, right? There's a river after floods, and it's gushing down with, and all the chicken, the tires, the bicycles, the trees, everything is flowing down, and it's going very fast. And that's what it's like. And it's like the life going past by. Yeah, this is our mad world, our life. And then there is like a rock outcrop in the middle of the river. Because it's a rock, it doesn't go anywhere. It's very stable and still. And you are sitting on top of it. And you are still. And you are looking onto the wild river, gushing down, carrying everything. But you look down with understanding why it is the way it is. What can you expect? There has been a flood. Yeah, this is what it's like to have a flood. Floods happen from time to time. This is what it is like to be born, to be existing in this world. This is what life is about. Life happens. Things doesn't always go the way we want. That's what it is. So you understand through right view. Yeah, that's what right view is about. So when you see that, you're able to just stay back and look on. And that is also very close to equanimity. Yeah? So that's kind of giving you a little bit of an understanding of that starting levels of equanimity. But these are by no means the real deep levels of equanimity, which comes about in deep meditation at fourth jhana. But anyway, that gives a little bit of a description about the four divine abodes, or the four Brahma Viharas. And also there was another question about how, like if the breath meditation isn't happening, or whatever your main meditation object, if you're not able to meditate really well, if it is not sticking, then what do you do? So the Buddha has already mentioned that if the meditation object isn't working, the first main object isn't going well, if you can see the hindrances coming up, then he says stop doing that. He doesn't say just stay with the hindrances, because usually you end up building up bad habits, bad meditation habits, and this is where you have bad relationship built up with your meditation object. So the Buddha says stop and instead take up another meditation object that is inspiring. So the question was about what other types of meditation is suitable in this occasion. And according to the Buddha's instructions, the Buddha instructs taking up any of the Anusati Bhavana. These are the reflection types of meditation. So that gives some joy, some energy into your mind. So it has to be something that is inspiring for you. For some people, they feel very close to the Buddha. They get uplifted and inspired when they think about the Buddha's good qualities. So if you are such a person, then you can do Buddha Anusati, reflecting the qualities of the Buddha. Or if you're somebody who have a lot of inspiration towards the teaching, the Dhamma, then you can reflect on the beautiful qualities of the Dhamma. Swakato, Sanditiko, Akaliko, all of this, that's another Dhamma talk altogether, but it's quite beautiful to see the very powerful qualities of the teaching. So when you reflect that, again, the mind gets energy. Or you can think about the fully enlightened beings and their qualities of enlightened monks and nuns, and that's another way of thinking about it. And then also there is Chaganusati, and that is thinking about your own generosity. So here you don't sit down and think about all the many different acts of generous acts you have done in great detail, because that will lead to still restlessness, but rather you just remember yourself to be a generous person. Remember that you had many good opportunities, to do good, to be generous, to help out. And you have done that. And when you think like, wow, that was so nice, I had that opportunity to give beautifully, wholeheartedly, open-handedly, I have given. When you think like that about your own generosity, again, joy comes up and gives a lift to your mind, and that's a beautiful way to bring up some energy into your mind. And you can also think about your virtue. Virtue is another very beautiful reflection, Sila Anusati, and that is thinking about your um, good behavior, good qualities, like being a good person to your best abilities. Again, remembering that I have done my very best to be, speaking in a good way, acting in a good way, thinking in a good way, doing things that are not harmful and hurtful for myself and others. When you remember your virtue, your sila, your good nature, again, that's a nice way of reflecting things. It's a meditation, anusati bhavana, that brings energy. And then you can, of course, use the 4 brahma viharas, the metta, karuna, mudita, upeka meditations. All of these are recommended as ways of building up energy. And once the mind has energy, then you can go back to your main meditation object, whether it's breath or something else. But you can also use another inspiring kind of aspect of Dhamma, one of the right view aspects of Dhamma. And one of the things that sometimes inspires my heart quite often is the idea of impermanence. For some people, when you think what impermanence, thinking about things changing is inspiring for you, because some people don't like things to change, like they become sad and upset. But the idea of change, idea of impermanence, somehow is very inspiring to my heart. Like especially when I think like anicca sankhara, that means all the conditioned phenomena are impermanent. That idea really inspires my heart. So sometimes I just stay with that kind of idea of anicca sankhara. And there was a question about what is anicca and what is sankhara. So anicca means impermanence, sankhara means conditioned things. So what are these? What is these conditioned things? Like things that are constructed, things that are made up. So everything, pretty much except for nibbana, everything else is constructed. All the material things, our bodies, trees, buildings, all of those things. But also our mind, our perceptions, our thoughts, our feelings, all the experiences we have, all our emotions, all of those things are also created by me, right? Myself. This is another Dhamma talk as well, but these are the constructed things. So when we see, especially our mind and mind states, how they change, that is very powerful. How they are impermanent, that is very powerful. So, for example, when people first started to listen to this talk or come for a guided meditation, how do you feel? And as you're listening to the talk, if I said something that you agree with, that is inspiring for you, maybe you became happy. Or maybe I said something that is a bit challenging and you became a bit unhappy or doubtful or questioned. Yeah? Or you got a bit irritated. So you can see even during the course of a Dhamma talk how much your mind states have changed, right? And again, another very, very important thing I always bring up is like, the time that you have received a very strong emotional triggering text message or an email, yeah, and how you have written a response to it. And 2 hours later, if you didn't send it already, if you look at it, you look at it differently. So what changed? Your perceptions have changed, right? The first time, how you perceived as you read it triggered you a certain emotion and you wrote a response. Later, your mood was different. The way you perceived the same message was different. So our perceptions are really unreliable, really impermanent, constantly changing. How about the feelings? All those emotions, you go through emotions very quickly, even feelings in your body. So feelings are constantly changing. our thought formations, yeah, the way we think about things constantly. We are constantly changing our mind and even drive our family members crazy at times, right? Because we change our mind too many times. So you can see all of these things, all of these constructed things are constantly changing. And when you see that, you don't give so much value to it, because our problem in life is when we see painful feelings, if you think that they last forever, it's difficult, but you know they don't last forever. They're constantly changing. When you see you're not stuck with your perceptions, that you have a choice to perceive things in a different way if you want to. So when you see that, you feel you don't take all of these things so seriously in a really strong way. Yeah, that gives a lot of peace to your mind. Yeah, you take things not in the same way when this grows in. So the idea of all conditioned things, everything being impermanent, unreliable, and constantly changing is so very helpful. It's a aspect of right view again. So this is very helpful also to still your mind, inspire your heart, and even it can get you all the way to even deep meditation using that kind of phrasing. So essentially, these are some of the things that I would like to share and that I have shared in the Dhamma talk I just gave an hour ago, which I tried to reconstruct for the benefit, and wish you all the very best on your spiritual journey. Thank you for time. Thank you for listening. Take care and bye-bye.